Welcome to today's video, where we'll explore one of the most profound and mystical texts in spiritual history, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Often regarded as a guide for the journey through death, it offers not only insights into the Tibetan Buddhist understanding of life and death, but also profound teachings on consciousness, rebirth, and the ultimate nature of reality. If you're fascinated by spiritual practices and the mysteries of the afterlife, stay tuned as we delve deep into this ancient guidebook of the soul. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, also known as Bardo Thodol, is a spiritual text that outlines the journey of the soul after death. The title itself translates roughly to liberation through hearing in the intermediate state, and its purpose is to guide the consciousness through the stages of dying, the post-death experience, and the subsequent cycle of rebirth. It's written by Padmasambhava, the revered 8th century Tibetan Buddhist master, and is considered one of the most significant works in Tibetan Buddhism. But the Tibetan Book of the Dead isn't just for the dying. In fact, its wisdom can be applied to our everyday lives, offering us a deeper understanding of life's impermanence, how we can prepare for death, and how we can live more fully in the present moment. Central to the Tibetan Book of the Dead is the concept of Bardo, a Tibetan word meaning intermediate state. According to the text, death isn't a sudden, final end, but rather a transition through several bardos, or states of existence. There are 3 main bardos. This is the period where the body dies and the consciousness begins its journey. During this bardo, one may encounter various visions, light, or sounds that are meant to guide the soul. The Tibetan Book of the Dead offers specific instructions on how to navigate this stage to avoid being swept away by fear and confusion. After death, the consciousness enters the bardo of reality, where it encounters the true nature of existence. The soul may experience both frightening and blissful visions, depending on one's karma and state of mind. This bardo is seen as a potential moment for liberation, but only if one is aware enough to recognize the true nature of these experiences. The final stage is the bardo of becoming, where the soul prepares for its next incarnation. It's a time where the consciousness is drawn toward rebirth, and the choices made during this time will influence the next life. The text provides instructions on how to navigate this stage with wisdom and clarity. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is not just a theoretical exploration of what happens after death. It is a practical guide for the living and dying. One of the key aspects of the text is its emphasis on chanting, prayer, and rituals that help ease the soul's journey through the bardos. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's believed that the mind and body are closely connected. Therefore, the text suggests that at the time of death, one should have a calm and clear state of mind to avoid getting lost in the illusions of the bardo. This is where the role of the chopa comes in. This is a spiritual guide who assists the dying person and their family in navigating the transition. These guides recite sacred verses from the Tibetan Book of the Dead in the hope that the dying person's consciousness will recognize the instructions and find liberation from the cycle of birth and rebirth. The Tibetan Book of the Dead ties deeply into the Buddhist understanding of reincarnation and karma. According to Tibetan Buddhism, the cycle of death and rebirth, called samsara, is driven by the actions, thoughts, and intentions accumulated over previous lifetimes. This cycle continues until one achieves enlightenment and breaks free. The text teaches that karma is a powerful force in shaping one's next life. It's not just about the actions we take in this life, but also the mental impressions and habitual patterns we form. This is why the practice of mindfulness and meditation is so important in Tibetan Buddhism. These practices help us purify our karma and prepare for the inevitable death and rebirth that awaits us all. While the Tibetan Book of the Dead is rooted in the context of death, its lessons extend far beyond the afterlife. At its core, the text is about the nature of consciousness and the importance of spiritual awakening. It encourages us to recognize that life, like death, is transient. Every moment is an opportunity to awaken, to transform our minds, and to cultivate compassion, wisdom, and inner peace. One of the central teachings of the book is the impermanence of all things. Whether we are facing death or simply navigating our day-to-day existence, the Tibetan Book of the Dead reminds us that everything is temporary, including our fears, desires, and attachments. By realizing this impermanence, we can live more fully in the present moment, free from the constraints of our ego and attachments. In today's world, where many of us are disconnected from the natural cycles of life and death, the Tibetan Book of the Dead offers a profound teaching on how we can reconnect with our deeper spiritual nature. With its focus on mindfulness, the impermanence of life, and the journey of the soul, it provides a framework that can help us live with greater awareness and purpose. Whether or not you follow a specific spiritual tradition, the teachings within the Tibetan Book of the Dead encourage all of us to live more consciously, to question the nature of reality, and to approach death with a sense of peace and acceptance. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is more than just a manual for the dying. It's a guide for the living, a way to embrace the mystery of life, death, and everything in between. If you're curious about exploring this ancient wisdom, consider reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead for yourself and reflect on how its teachings can transform your understanding of life and death. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more content, exploring the mysteries of spirituality, philosophy, and the human experience. Share your thoughts on the Tibetan Book of the Dead in the comments below. Have you read it? What insights did you find most profound? Until next time, stay curious and stay enlightened.